Did we just get a first look at a Persona 3 remake? Probably not, but let's just take a look at this anyway, because there has been some footage floating around on the internet. And while at first glance I thought it was just another fake, the more I look into it, the more it looks like there's actually something here. Now, whether or not that something is actually a Persona 3 remake or not is still to be seen though. But since I already made another video covering some Persona 3 remake rumors before, and in that video I said that if something else noteworthy would happen, I was gonna make a follow-up video on it. So here we are now. If you haven't seen that video yet, I would recommend checking it out, since I will be referencing some stuff from that video here. Of course, I'll recap my main points where needed, but for full context, just check it out. It's just another short video going into some Persona 3 rumors, and if you're interested in this video, you'll definitely enjoy that video too. But let's just focus on the footage that we got today. And before we get into what this footage could be, let's just take a look at this so-called leak itself. I'll just go over the facts, so to say, first, and then later I'll give my personal opinion on it. I also decided that I'm not gonna show the clip itself, just in case that it is a real leak. I don't really want them to take down this video, so just in case, I'm gonna do that. I will leave my sources and everything in the description though, so I'm sure you can find it, and I'm also gonna be describing the clip, so you should be able to follow along with what I'm talking about, even without watching it. So the leak itself is just a very small clip, and it shows Yukari summoning her persona and doing an attack. The area around her also just looks exactly like Tartarus, and it honestly looks really good. It's not much, and while it could be something real, it could also easily just be a little fan-made animation, made to troll people like you and me. There's nothing here that proves that this is real, or that even points at this being anything more than just a fan animation. Like, yeah, it looks really good, but a lot of fan animations these days can look incredible. So the footage on its own isn't really anything to go off of. It could go either way, and if this was the only thing that happened, I wouldn't have bothered making a video on it. But here we get to the interesting stuff, namely the footage surrounding this clip, and just the context. Because this 5-second clip is actually part of a longer clip that's 27 seconds long, in which multiple games are being shown. The first 5 seconds are about Persona 3, then we switch to some footage from Sonic Frontiers, and the video closes with 5 seconds of Jet Set Radio footage. But not just Jet Set Radio footage, it looks to be a remaster or a reboot or a remake. The caption of this video says that this is from an internal meeting at Sega from 2021. The oldest posting of this clip that I could find was also from a few days ago, on the 4th of April, but today, on the 9th, it got posted again by the same person in a reply to an Atlas tweet, and that's where it took traction. The person originally said that this came from a Reddit post that has been deleted, and from that people have been quote retweeting it, linking this post back to an older leak about Jet Set Radio from 2022? Now, the source of all this is kinda weird. It's just a Twitter account made this month that only tweeted about this remake. So think about that what you will. It's kinda suspicious, but at the same time, the person did say that they found this on Reddit, so maybe they just found it, made the account just to post it, and that's it. But again, the source isn't really anything special or even trustworthy. But let's talk about these individual clips now. But the Sonic footage is actually the most interesting one here, at least if we look at proof and if this is real or not. Since this is actually footage that has never been shown anywhere before this. And it's not fan-made either, because it's just Sonic Frontiers footage, but it's obviously from earlier in development. The game looks quite different here compared to the game's full release. Not just from a visual standpoint, as in the graphics, but also with the contents of this clip. Because if you look at the footage, you see that Sonic is fighting this enemy. I didn't play the game myself, but by doing some research and judging by the reaction of literally every single Sonic fan in the replies, this enemy isn't in the actual game and has only been shown in concept art. So maybe this enemy got cut before release. And that just all lines up nicely, since apparently the footage is from 2021, which would mean that this is basically pre-release footage from an earlier stage of development, which is why the game looks so different and why this enemy is still in the game. So, to me, that's the part of this leak that holds the most ground. Because the Jet Set Radio one isn't that much to go off of either. It's kind of similar to the Persona 3 clip. It's one character doing an animation and the clip is 5 seconds long. So again, it could easily be fan-made, but it does line up with another leak that I mentioned from 2022. Jet Set Radio is in a very similar position to Persona 3, since it's another game that gets rumors all the time, be it about a reboot or a remake. It's just one of those games that constantly gets in the news and nobody really knows what's going on. Besides for the rumor from 2022, which came with a screenshot, and this other rumor, which is actually more of a report coming from Bloomberg saying that a Jet Set Radio reboot actually got greenlit at Sega. So real or fake, of course we'll never know until we get an actual announcement, but in general, this clip looks like it could be pretty legit, or at least judging by the Sonic and Jet Set Radio stuff. It all lines up really nicely with concept arts, prior leaks, and actual reports from reliable sources. But that then brings us to the Persona 3 clip, and for the purpose of this part in the video, let's just assume that this is real for a second. What is this video showing us? Because it's not just a normal attack, the animation is too fancy for that, but the animation is also kind of weird in a lot of ways. It's not just a normal physical attack, since she did summon her persona and does the fancy animation, but since it's a fancy animation, I thought maybe it's a crit? But no, we see the damage numbers, and in Persona games, when it crits, it always says it. It's also just weird, since she looks like she's doing a physical attack with her bow, with her melee weapon, but there are wind effects around it, and she summoned her persona. And at the same time, she didn't even use her evoker to summon her persona. So while the animation looks very fancy and looks pretty good, it does feel off in a lot of ways. But I have kind of a theory of why it feels off, and I'm gonna get to that theory in a second. But for now, I just want to continue this train of thought of this being a real Persona 3 remake leak. Honestly, the only thing that I can come up with for this, and it's kind of a reach, but this might be some kind of new special attack? Maybe something like a follow-up attack, or just a new attack along those lines. But as I said, that's just me reaching for something, trying to explain what this could be if it is a remake. But then that does bring me to my theory that I mentioned a second ago, which is, again assuming that the footage is real and not fan-made, what if this footage is for Persona 5X instead of a Persona 3 remake? And for those who don't know, Persona 5X, or Persona 5 The Phantom X, is a game that got announced a while ago already, and recently, just a few weeks ago, we got a bunch of new information from it, including a beta. This game is a gacha game for mobile devices, but it's also coming to PC, and it looks to be set a few years after Persona 5. P5X will also have a new cast of characters, and while the game isn't developed by Atlus, it has a lot of connections to Atlus, such as the artists and illustrators from Persona 5 working on this game again to make concept art, and it also has a soundtrack by the same creators as Persona 5. As I said, the game isn't being developed by Atlus, but it's being developed by a Chinese developer that made World of Fantasy before, which is another gacha game that tried to be a little bit too much like Genshin Impact. The Phantom Thieves themselves are also playable in this game, since you can pull them from the gacha system. We don't know if they'll be involved in the story or not, but for now they're confirmed to be in the game at the very least. But even though the game is called Persona 5 and it has the same setting as Persona 5, and the characters kinda just look like Persona 5 characters, I can assure you that this game will include more characters than just the new original cast members and the Persona 5 Phantom Thieves. It's a given that at some point this game will introduce Persona 4 characters and Persona 3 characters, maybe even characters from Persona 1 and 2, with them at the very least being playable. Probably even having some story importance in the way of an event questline or something like that. It's just something that's gonna happen. It's a gacha game, and what better way to make money than to include limited event crossover characters that everyone loves. Just look at the Nier gacha games for an example. Nier Reincarnation has its original characters, but it also has a male or 2B, the characters that everyone knows and loves. So this could honestly just be early footage from a Persona 3 event within Persona 5X. It just lines up in my opinion. Because this footage looks really good, but it also looks off. Just like kind of the entirety of Persona 5X to me. It looks really good, but it also kinda looks off. Like, the new Velvet attendant does not have yellow eyes. It's a small detail, but it's just a thing that has been consistent in every single Persona game, and this one doesn't have it. Or with another thing, like the all-out attack moves from the OG Persona 5 characters. They are exactly the same in this game, but they added some small sound effects to them, just to make them a little bit different. It's just small things like this, that at first glance they look completely fine. But when you take a second look at it, there's always just something that feels off, just like with the Yukari clip. And the way that Yukari does her attack here also just kinda gives me gacha vibes. Like a pretty standard attack, but they gave it a fancy animation because it's a 5-star character most likely. Now, another thing that might be kind of a reach, but some Persona designs also had to be censored since it's a Chinese game, so maybe this animation doesn't show them firing the evoker for censoring reasons. And then there's something else as well, which is something that a friend of mine pointed out. But in the footage, Yukari is using a bow that's basically the exact same bow as Akechi's third Persona. And since I can't pronounce his name, I'm just not gonna say it, but it's Akechi's third Persona and he's on screen right now. So to me, that can mean a few things. It's either confirmation that it's fan-made and the creator of this clip just took that bow model and used it for this clip, but since the model of Yukari seems to be completely new, I'm more leaning towards another possibility, which again lines up with the connection to Persona 5X, which is that in Persona 5X, there's not only a character gacha, but also a weapon gacha, similar to Genshin Impact, where you can pull for weapons and characters. So I feel like this bow might just be a 5-star bow that you can pull in the game, and for this clip, that's the bow that Yukari is equipped with. But those were just my theories on this, because I honestly have no fucking idea what this could be. I just wanted to think, what if this was real, and then try to make sense of this footage. Of course, even if this clip turns out to be Persona 5X instead of Persona 3, that still doesn't rule out a remake. In my previous video, I already made an overview of why a remake would make sense, looking at just the state of Persona 3, customer surveys, statements by Atlus and various leaks. But there is also another leak that has come out since the release of that video, suggesting that Atlus might be gearing up for an announcement in summer of this year. It was only a small leak though, so I didn't want to dedicate an entire video to it, but now that I'm talking about Persona 3 Remake again, I just wanted to mention it here. That leak is basically just one in a dozen that doesn't really have any ground to stand on, since it doesn't come with any proof, but once again, it lines up nicely with stuff that we saw or know from other leaks. More specifically about the rumors mentioned in my previous video, or some other rumors that explain why Atlus broke tradition in their latest Persona concert. Because as we all know, Atlus loves to make their big Persona announcements during their concert, but for some reason in their latest one, they didn't announce anything. So there's a rumor or a report going around suggesting that Atlus didn't announce anything on that concert since they have a marketing deal with Microsoft, making it so Microsoft has the rights to reveal the new Persona games. Which would be really weird, but it does explain a few things, such as why the Persona ports were announced at an Xbox showcase, and why they didn't announce anything at the concert. And lately, Microsoft is also kind of known for just throwing money at studios to either buy them or to make some exclusivity deals, so this rumor kind of makes sense to me. And to tie this back to the rumor of a Persona 3 announcement coming in the summer, Microsoft, just like any other big publisher, always holds an event in summer, so maybe that's where the announcement is gonna happen? I don't know, it's all kind of a reach, but at the same time, like a lot of these Persona 3 rumors, it all lines up. So I just wanted to mention this and add it to the pile of existing rumors that I already covered on my channel. But I think that that covers about everything. As I stated in the beginning of the video, personally I started off with thinking that this was just bullshit and a fan-made leak. But the more that I look into it, especially looking at all the context surrounding it with the Sonic and Jet Set Radio footage, it lines up a bit too well. And usually with leaks like this, when a lot of parts line up, the entire leak usually turns out to be real in some way. Now, do I think that this is a Persona 3 remake clip? I don't know. If this is real, it feels more likely to be Persona 5X related in my opinion than an actual Persona 3 remake, but I do still think that outside of this, the likeliness of a Persona 3 remake happening is still pretty big. If anything, maybe this Persona 5X collab is in development next to a remake, so they can reuse assets and so they can time the release of this event with the release of the remake, because that's how a lot of gacha games handle their events. Again, comparing it to the Nier gacha game, when the Nier Automata anime aired, the Nier gacha game also had a Nier Automata event. That's just marketing. But that's also just me on Copium. Anyway, that's basically everything I could think of regarding this rumor. It might be real, it might be bullshit, but it's just fun to talk about this stuff and to see how it turns out. And I'm also really curious what you're all thinking. Do you think this is completely fake? Do you think this is Persona 3 Remake? Do you think it's Persona 5X? Or just, what do you think? Again, if something else happens, I'll update you all, so make sure to subscribe to my channel and like the video. I'm just on here doing my thing, talking about games, and all the support is greatly appreciated. But with that, I'm gonna end the video. I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. I hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.